Since we have a quorum, why don't we just go ahead and get the meeting started? Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Please.
Randy Thomas.
Here.
Nick Patel.
Yeah.
Jeff Simmons.
Here.
Mark Magstaff.
Here.
Donald Rosenthal. Angela Coplett. Here. And Mr. Julian.
Here. Did everyone have a chance to review the agenda? Any additions or complete deletions?
Not for me, Mr. Vice Chair.
I'm sorry?
Not for me, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, so action items, approved minutes from the board meeting of July 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Discussion, everybody ready? To approve? Jennifer, the Economic Development Community Leadership Workshop.
So under discussion items, we mentioned this on our last meeting. I wanted to elaborate a little bit and give you some more info and kind of poll you guys and ask for your input on this. So FPL is sponsoring this workshop. So they're actually kind of the driving force behind it. Del Boyette, who you see in the corner here with Boyette Strategic Advisors out of Louisiana, very, very well-known economic developer across the country, and site selector, is facilitating. He's also very skilled at navigating governmental concerns, if you will. So what he would like to focus on are things specifically that Columbia County that we're facing, some of the challenges we have, some of the concerns from our business leaders, our elected officials, the folks who are in these board meetings and boardrooms and overseeing different organizations. So just for context, the meeting or the seminar is what I'm calling it. So the workshop will be on September 5th here in this conference room from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'll be sending out specific invites, but just so you can go ahead and hold the date on your calendars for that. But I'd really like to hear from this board what topics or what concerns, what things you would like to discuss and kind of get Dell's input on and his guidance on ways we can navigate some of the challenges. So if you have anything, love to hear it and like to open the floor to that if you're good with that, Mr. Chair.
Anybody have anything in particular they would like to?
Yeah, I having built buildings in the past, I think for a size we are, Lake City, our impact fees are exuberantly high. If you really look at some of the impact fees the city and the utility charges us, it is really exorbitant, to be very frank with you. We haven't grown big enough, in my opinion, yet for a city of this size to charge so much of impact fees and everything, whether it's traffic or sewer or water meter, fire. It's quite significant. And I think there needs to be a moderation to that if more construction needs to occur.
What determines the impact fees on traffic?
So,
Is that like if it's out on US 90, is that DOT or is that?
so traffic is impacted by a traffic study,
Right.
right? How much of, there are certain calculations within the city land development regulations, and there's specific charges for those. So I'll give you an instant, for example. Now, don't quote me 100%, but I'm sure this is more or less the ballpark number. For example, a 100-room hotel, if I do that, my impact fees would be about $400,000. Water utility, the meter, tapping fees to tap into the system.
What percentage of the breakdown between city impact fees and the county impact?
County is very minimalist. County is very pro-development. And county is very generous, but the city. And I know why this thing, okay, because many years ago, there was a study done. Believe it or not, for example, I pay probably $80,000 just for the fire protection. And that it's unheard of, right? A small town like ours, cumulative. So I just feel, and I get it, because there was a fire study done. We brought in an outside company which did the study. And the way they do this is they document all these calls they get into the 911 related to fire. Okay. And then they document how many hours did it took, how many manpower did it took, how many fire trucks went out there. And then they calculate, okay, this is exactly the cost of this. Different industries are categorized and different cost structures are accumulated in the study. And based on that, if the budget is $2 million, how do we allocate $2 million to which particular segment of industry? That's how the study was done. And, but as I said, so fire is a major one, water, sewer, obviously, tapping fees. There's other impact fees also, like this,
I wonder if
But he's
there's,
right. It starts with, we think we need $10 million.
right,
If I think I need $10 million, how do I divide it amongst people?
right.
The question is that $10 million really needed?
I'm just wondering, could we ask Dale Boyette, or maybe do it within our staff, to compare Lake City, Columbia County impact fees with other communities approximately the same size? Is it competitive? Or, is it the same way if you go to build a property in Live Oak?
well, Live Oak is quite generous as well.
Or let's say Gainesville.
Gainesville's a lot higher.
Gainesville is a little bit different because Gainesville, obviously we all know Gainesville is run by people who love the environment a lot more than, and they're more cautious. Even cutting a tree would cost you $100,000. So Gainesville is a completely different ballgame. It's quite bigger, quite larger in size, and they don't care because the growth is enormous in Gainesville across, But in Lake City, we still have a long way to go.
Is that something that could be a discussion topic?
Absolutely. That's why I've asked this question today, because Dale and his team have asked me to have kind of a pre-seminar workshop call with them to give them an idea of some of the topics that you guys would like to discuss.
Right.
So one of the reasons why I asked that today, to give them time to do some research and to come back with some information that's specific to Columbia County.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an instance. For example, if somebody's doing a 200 spot RV resort, the impact fee is based on a spot. Okay. Now, mind you, that spot is not a physical building. It's just a flat concrete or, space, right? But they consider it as, if there's an RV, then we have to protect it. But that doesn't make sense because the occupancy is not all the time, 100%.
Right.
So these are the things needs to be looked into and given a thought process that projects to become really expensive for a small town.
Anything else you guys would like to talk about during that seminar?
I think one thing that might be of benefits, and since Angela's here too, the integration of new industry, potential new industry, with our local education. I know there's been a lot done and integrating that here locally, but are there areas of improvement that we could find?
I just think the education of the workforce is important.
I agree. It's interesting you bring that up too. You'll see when we get to Van's slides today, that's a topic that's on the top of several companies around here. It's
Right.
part of their everyday ponderings as well. So,
But Jennifer, what we can do is we can target specific industries where we feel like we don't have it in this town, whether it's commercial buildings or office buildings or whatever, you know. If we feel like we don't have enough of this, maybe there needs to be some sort of leeway. Okay, let's give them a break or something along that line for that particular industry to come into town. And if it's clearly written and specified, and then I think people will have a better understanding. Okay, I'll get this kind of break if I come. And I'm talking in the city, not in the county. I know the county is claiming that.
I mean, we do with our scorecard for economic development.
Yeah, in the county.
Include that
For the county.
Yeah, like targeted industries.
Yeah, in the county. I'm talking about the impact fees.
Yeah.
Because I know there has been times, I do know that maybe during COVID time or when 2008 and 9, when the economy really went down, the city was not charging anything. There was a grace period and then it came back in, you know, something along that line, maybe 50% off, 25% off, I don't know, but that's, you know, that's incentivizing industries which are not here to come in or buildings to come in where you have lack of those.
any other topics? Anything else we would like to pick Dell's brain about?
Excuse me, I'd be interested to know, somewhat in the vein of Jeff's comments, counties that are comparable to our size, what are they specifically doing for business expansion and retention for smaller businesses? I know we hear we have an incentive program for larger industries, but a lot of our homegrown businesses are never going to build 100,000 square feet and employ 200 people. So what are counties comparable to us doing for those smaller businesses, if anything?
Smaller and existing, right? Okay. And I know I kind of put you on the spot today, but if you think of anything else that comes up that you really like to talk about, let me know, send me an email or give me a call.
Okay, I'll throw one out there.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they can address it or not, but media strategies. Because I know that for a community and looking to development, I know from way long time ago, you've always got site selectors that are out there and they're doing web searches.
Yes.
And I don't know that it's as bad now because I haven't seen his website in years. But we used to have a local that would always bash everything about Columbia County and Lake City. I mean, it was just all bash, bash, bash. And that was one of our concerns is that, anytime you've got somebody in Chicago that's been employed or contracted to help locate a new business in the Southeast that's expanding, whether national or international, and they're doing a site search to see what's available out there. And they just punch in Columbia County and guess what pops up? It's just all a bunch of garbage. And as far as media strategies in attracting new industry, I don't know. I mean, I know Dell's, he's top of the field in his area, so maybe he can help with that too.
Excuse me, you said something about local to and whatnot. I didn't make out what you were saying.
We used to have and I guess he's still around, a local, I don't know what you'd call him, but he was always putting stuff on the web that was just very volatile, I guess you could say. And it was it was basically highlighting all the negative in discussions or arguments about everything. And so the concept there is you've got large companies that say they're looking to expand into the Southeast, whether it's logistics, manufacturing, whatever it may be that brings jobs. And their site locators are like people like Dell Boyette, but others that may be somewhere else. They may be in Seattle, they may be on the West Coast, they may be up in the Northeast somewhere, but they're just searching. They're just looking for places. And so they search Columbia County or Lake City. And when you have a media that is just negative about the community all the time. It's just, those are the kinds of things that they'll just, because they're looking all over. They're not favoring anything. They look at the benefits of that location. They look at the features of that location, the infrastructure, crime,
schools.
education, everything. And so, when they're doing that search, if you come to the top of the list as a potential location, and then they start doing some more research and they say, nah, they're not going to want to deal with that. You just go right off the list.
But on the flip side, if you don't mind, if I can please engage you for one quick second. If you look at Columbia County, Lake City, you want to be careful what you put on as positive to make sure it's actually factual.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why I said about the whole concept of media strategies in getting the word out there about our community. Remember, the things that we're doing now with the publications that from an economic development, recruitment, is it accurate, so forth, that the things, are we making those things available as needed?
Right. So I'm concerned, and maybe you too, and maybe this year, I'm concerned when I talk to big corporations and big industries, which I know a lot of people throughout the United States and everywhere. And so one of the things is you don't have a trained workforce of people that would run the business until you have the housing. And so, and your schools may be C level and D level. So when corporations sit down and start talking to their employees and they tell them about that city, even if they claim that the Gateway to Florida got the I-10 and I-75, you ain't got the trained workers. You're gonna have a corporation that's gonna do business. No matter what's there, if it was something negative there and you had those other things, they would still come. So my personal opinion is I would focus on what big corporations really need or to come.
Well, that's, I'd already mentioned about one of those topics for discussion would be education and integrating the local education and new workforce, but also looking at, housing is an issue. We've been discussing that for some time too. What we haven't, as far as this board is concerned, to the point where we've looked at and we're actually implementing incentives for building housing, right? We have those programs.
I'm just being honest. I love it.
I'm being honest too. There's only so much we can do.
There has been articles about Lake City about the workplace and all that. If you probably know that. I think what Jeff is trying to say is that we may need to be a little bit more active from TDC point of view, economic development point of view, to highlight the positives we have in this county and the city. So if there is one bad or two bad out there, at least we can put one blogger or one blog or one positive, because many of these writers really bash Lake City when the reality is something different, just for putting an article up there. And I think every one of you have read them. So I think what Jeff is trying to say, what I understand, hopefully I'm understanding is that maybe the TDC, the economic development, or how do we set up, because in this media savvy world, social media plays a very important role. We've got to be active putting positive stuff about Columbia County or Lake City. I'm sure that, as he said, that there are bad things also, but
Everybody's saying.
Yeah. But if you put positive things, I think people can read them.
Yeah.
I agree. That's might be something, TDC and the chamber might work together on and start trying to counter some of that. I don't know exactly how you would do that. That's kind of out of my.
Well, I'm sure there could be a strategy where they all work together, maybe have three entities come together maybe once every 2 months and look at something and say, okay, can we put a positive article? Maybe 5-6 articles a year would even be worth it.
And one of the things that's already being done, we got a copy of it here. Is this the thing that was in the business info?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very powerful article, very positive.
Yeah.
And it's kind of maybe staying along that same line.
One of the other things that, that I've been, considering over the last several weeks is the talk of property tax elimination. We all know Florida is, a little less competitive when it comes to business attraction and bringing in large industry. We don't have quite the incentives that some of the other states that we compete with do. Georgia and Texas specifically, South Carolina is kind of, tailoring down a little bit. They've kind of overextended in certain sectors. But when you look at when a company from Michigan or somewhere in the Northwest wants to come to the Southeast, Texas is part of that. Even Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama are competing at a higher level than Florida because we're Florida. People want to live here, right? They come to vacation here. They want to live here. There should not be an incentive to drive a business here. It has been the general consensus for so long, and that's not really true. For us to be competitive, there has to be a comparison of some sort, right? And there are some, when it comes to income tax and things like that. But then you look at our workers' comp tax, right? And that kind of null and voids the income tax. So my concern is, as a small, small rural county, one of the few things I have to incentivize a large business is a property tax abatement. And, if we no longer have that to work with, what am I left with other than it's a great place to live, right? And that depends on which article you read. So that's one of my concerns. How do we continue attracting business when we don't have that one incentive to work with?
But Jennifer, don't you have something where you put stuff at a method of, if somebody's requesting property tax amendment, you put, okay, how many employees are they bringing? What is the level of investment?
We do.
So you have that, right?
Yes, we do now, but if they're not paying property tax, then that's not relevant. If property tax goes away completely and businesses aren't required to pay it.
Well, you're talking about probably at the state level, what's happening. And I think, I don't know. I think it's going to be very difficult to get rid of it. There's so many communities that to be very frank with you. It could be different in big counties, maybe Orlando, Miami, where the collection of that tax dollars is a huge amount of money, but for small counties like these, it's going to be a killer.
Depending on where that whole issue goes, if they come back and say, we're going to eliminate property tax on residential,
Yeah.
then it's not going to hurt.
Homestead and residential properties specifically, I agree. And different impacts depending on what that tax is and where it goes. Same thing when we talked about the bed tax, maternity development tax. How that's handled and mitigated is going to have a huge impact one way or the other. How do we prepare for that, whatever the option is that we end up with in a couple of years?
Now our biggest incentive, actually, we draw business in. If they do away with that, looking at different avenues, what that is.
Yeah, and where the revenue for operation is going to come from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's, I don't know.
Well, when I've seen so the consumption tax, basically sales tax. But
Yeah.
once you go to that point, then there again, you can divvy up the money, what I'm saying?
And there's already something,
They're gonna take how much you get.
there's a manufacturing sales tax credit that most businesses come in that are making something qualify for, that they don't pay sales tax on any of the equipment that they make, that they use to make things. So, we already have that in place. That's already, so,
But they change it to be a tax. They should, right now, I've read about 2 or 3 different kind of plans and.
Well, remember, California, the home value is exuberantly high. What they have is the state tax, 15%. And so their property tax about 1%, of the value. Ours would average about 2.2, 2.3. in this county.
I really don't know how you prepare for that till you see what you're up
Yeah, I
against.
don't either.
Exactly, you know, because and like Dick said too, it's all just talk right now, you know. That's a major undertaking. I can't imagine it's gonna be done all in 1 year. It might be years down the road if they even do it. And,
Well, then they have to put it on a ballot if they want to raise,
but if you, I'm quite sure if you put it on the ballot, most people are gonna vote until they don't.
You need to substitute that revenue loss with something else, right?
That's what I'm saying, you got to get that revenue. So,
As far as the seminar is concerned, Del Boyette, he would be the one that could describe or explain about what other states that are already dealing with this, what are they doing?
Right.
And at least give some ideas and be a good topic for discussion going forward, whether this happens in a year or 10 years, at least have some idea about it. We're not gonna have the property tax
but I know in Georgia,
as an incentive.
I know in Georgia, they do a property tax, they do a thing.
Yeah, they sure do. Have for
You know,
years.
like I say, till we see what it looks like.
Yeah,
But we could figure out we could find out what other states are doing and how they
Yeah.
incentivize their businesses to come. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that big thing they look at.
Well, and to that point about Georgia, they're one of those states who historically have acquired large plots of land to give companies as an incentive.
Yeah.
And the state of Florida, doesn't really do that. So, again, they found a way to offset that, and it works for those companies. He is building and expanding every single year, right? So, any other topics that we want to add to that? Again, feel free to email me, call me, or let me know, and we'll do that. I look forward to this being a working session with Del and his team to really kind of dig down into how we can strengthen our economic development approach from the inside with him. I think this will be a good workshop for us.
move on to the comp plan, land development. Oh, Rocky, you're back.
So you just move on down to request for topics that the board would like to.
Oh, next one.
Comp plan land development. Yeah,
So we also mentioned this in the last meeting. Wanted to give you a little bit of an update. So the flyer that you see up posted here that's in the conference room, it is strategically posted around county offices. The QR code is there for you to scan and go straight to the survey. The nice folks at Kimley Horn have attended several different events, including the 4th of July, celebration that we had here. They've had pop-up events at libraries, at state parks, all of these things. And when the last conversation that we had our last meeting, which was not this past Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, we had a whopping 29 surveys submitted. And that's counting the work that Kimley Horn's done, having face-to-face conversations, including all of the staff who've taken it as part of, the piloting to make sure the survey's working. So for some reason, even having these conversations face-to-face with people, they're still not engaging in the survey. And the end of the day, what this is all about is the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations that basically dictate how you develop your property or what you can do with your property in Columbia County. This is something that our building and zoning department has been looking at revising for quite some time. Hasn't been done. When was the last time we updated our comp plan or LDRs?
On a major basis, yeah, pieces here and there.
It's been quite some time. So this is something that they've been, looking to get accomplished for quite some time. And they have quite a robust plan in place to get information out there and get people involved. And at this point, we're bringing the horse to the water and holding their head in, and they're still not drinking. So we're taking a couple of other strategies. We're scheduling a open house, if you will. So instead of a sit down and let's talk about it, it's just going to be there. They'll have different posters and kind of explaining some of the hot topics in the land development regulations that come up on a regular basis. One of the things on the survey mentions, how do you feel about trees? How do you feel about parks? So they're going to expand on that. So when they say that, should we mandate what kind of trees are left and what kind of trees you can take away when you go to develop a piece of property, things like that. So this open house on September 9th from 4 to 6 will be here in this building again. And they're just gonna, the folks, Kimley Horn and some folks from North Florida Professional Services who've been partnering with them on this, will be here having open conversations, answering questions, and trying to get people logged in to take the survey to get their input, because that's really what is gonna drive the changes and the updates to our comp plan and regulations. In addition to that, we're also scheduling staff workshops on the 24th, and that time frame is kind of large, but what we're doing is breaking it down by kind of not necessarily departments, but sectors. So anyone involved in the building and zoning, and then we've got the housing authority, and then we've got fire and safety. So everyone is going to be scheduled to come in and just give their feedback on what they would like to see change, what they like, what they don't like, that kind of thing. And after all of this is said and done, and they've got all this information pulled together. Oh, let me pause there real quick. We did have a workshop with the business development community. So there was about 20 people who attended, developers, realtors, brokers in that particular sector. And the feedback from them was obviously, geared towards properties that they're looking to sell or that they want to improve. So it was very good feedback, but it was very specific to that particular, topic. Land development regulations cover everything you can imagine. So we really want more information from the public and from people who are in these LDRs on a regular basis. So that first workshop went well with that small group. We're going to keep building that. Presentation of findings. So what they will do is compile all of the feedback that they've gotten, both through the surveys, through the website, through these workshops, and create a proposal of changes that they think should happen. Essentially a SWOT analysis, right? This is going well. This is what the people like. This is what they think should change. In things of this. That will be in a workshop style meeting. Right now, we're tentatively planning. I don't know if we've cleared it completely with county manager and commissioners. This was what we discussed as a planning team for November 6th. So it will be sometime in November that we have this overall discussion and presentation of finding.
Jennifer, do you think this committee would know what are the major proposed changes after all this thing is done, the entire exercise is done, before they implement it? Rocky, do you think?
That's the intent, and really what they're trying to gather this information to, and Blair, who's running this project, is very well versed in comp plan. She's done this across many communities, and there's certain topics that she sees come up on a regular basis, and she's brought those forward. And then, I've seen people in the room realize that they've never even contemplated this. So I think there's some things, to your point earlier about impact fees, right? We're still sort of on the small side. We're still very rural, but we are growing. How do you accommodate for that growth 5, 10, 15 years out? Really what this is trying to do is set that plan so that we know 15 years down the road what the intent for this area is. And we've had a lot of conversation about better planning of where specific types of companies and industry and even housing goes, right? Mixed-use developments is something that's coming up more and more often. And as a county, we really don't understand how to implement and the best use of mixed-use developments.
I think the most difficult thing in any development you do is the environmental, the water management districts. That Rocky knows about it. You know, I think I'm. If somebody knows about this, correct me. But I believe on the 1st of January, I think there is a new DEP rule coming into play where you cannot dump excess water. And you can only dump if it's nutrient free.
The nitrogen level.
And you
is
understand
becoming
what it
very-
takes to do that, right? So, so for example, if I'm doing a retaining pond, I have to probably install a $100,000 tank, which is a filter, which is probably 24 feet wide, to filter the water out. And so these are the things coming into play, which most of the time project becomes so difficult. And then
I think what it makes you refer to, if you have a pop on your retention pond where it flows out into.
Yeah, the overflow, yeah.
Then you have to, now if you're retaining your water, that's just so if you don't have pop on it, that'll come into effect.
Yeah,
Most of them in your city is gonna have
the
pop
pump.
on it. Yeah. Well, if
You
it
always have
gets
that,
so
right?
full, it's gonna overflow into some
Yeah.
other,
You always have that because in times, some counties have 10-year flood plan, some counties are 25, some counties want you to do 100-year flood plan. So depending on how restrictive it is and how much water you need to retain, but as I said, that water will always overflow based on the gravity weight. But one of the things, Jennifer, is that I hope the county always keeps a provision in any land development regulations, a variance process. That is so important because a rule may not fit somewhere. A rule is a rule, regulations are regulations, but along the line somewhere it may not fit, and you guys need to have the ability to give variances.
your variance.
Yeah.
Do they have, the meeting that we had here, I thought was great. It was, like you say, it was real specific. Does this group have specific topics that haven't been addressed that they would like more feedback so that you could get word out that this is the topic that we want, like you say, parks, fences came up,
Right.
Different things. Can they be specific of what type of feedback they want?
At that point, Mark, it was kind of what drove our shift to this open house and having kind of individual stations like the fencing, for example. One of the questions on the survey is, do you think we should regulate fencing on properties or for homeowners or whatever else, or signs? Should there be stricter regulations around what type of signage, how it's built, what it's made out of, when it's lit, that kind of things, right? So the thought process behind this open house is to have different stations set up with examples of different fencing. Is this something you would like to see implemented in your land development regulations? And if so, what does that look like? So is it, a housing development with 60 doors, duplexes, whatever it may be, needs to have a certain amount of open green space or community space? And if so, does it need to have certain fencing? Things like that are the questions that they're asking, but and there will be kind of more of a guided tour of this is what we're asking. And an example of it, and what are your thoughts about this? And they're gathering this from their experience in other communities, because quite honestly, the little bit of feedback that they've gotten, nobody here wants fences. We don't care what you do with your trees. We all want a park, but nobody wants to pay for it is really the feedback that they're getting in these surveys. Dog parks are great. Who's going to pay for it? That kind of thing. So they're looking to expand on that a little bit more. So that's why we talked about, instead of a sit down structured workshop of let's ask questions and get feedback, is let's set up these individual areas to allow that feedback to happen in that place. And you'll notice now, instead of just the QR code, there's a website included on the flyers. We're hoping that kind of taking a little bit step back in technology and getting away from scanning a QR code, people can go to a website. It's a very short survey. It's not really time consuming, and it's anonymous.
So Jennifer, the survey is on the website?
Yes, the ccflupdate.com is the website that will take you straight to the survey and give you the background on why we're doing this.
At the end of the day, the county wants to redo the entire LDR process. Our LDRs were written a long time ago. They haven't really been updated, and they're just difficult to work with and out of state.
I will say too that the city is also watching this process because they're looking at some changes to like to mirror some of the things that we're looking at to make it a little more cohesive.
And the town of Fort White.
I'm gonna tell you the truth, I said this before. Columbia County needs to have a comprehensive use plan. That would make it so simple, any business, or even residential. But I think that's where we should be heading. There again, that takes multiple agencies working together. It's a commercial area for the whole county. You know, you have residential areas for the whole county. You have multi-use areas, you know. It can be countywide, not just Columbia County, not Fort White, not City of Lake City, you know, but it can be countywide. Then you've got one comprehensive use plan to look at for the whole county.
Going back to that workshop, Mark, if you'll recall, some of the feedback that was presented then, even from brokers or from developers who are very familiar with the county's process and have built multiple, houses or developments or whatever here. One of their biggest frustrations is the lack of information or the ability to find that information. So if they're looking for a specific permit, they can go online and find that. But if there's a nuance within that they need a little bit more information, then they have to call building and zoning who, they're swamped all the time. I mean, we're growing, and so they stay busy, and so they have to do some research, find the answer that they want to make that information more readily available and easier to find is one of the things that came up in that workshop as well. Again, that's something that is important. It may not be a specific update to the comp plan, but if you're trying to build something and grow something and you can't find the requirements that are necessary to do that, that can delay that build out. So even if it's not directly related to the land development regulations or the comp plan, if it's something that supports it, this is also information that they'd like to know.
I've got a question for Angela. If there was a flyer or something explaining the purpose for this survey for people to have feedback, is that something that could be given out to the students in the school and say, please take this home to your parents? This is important for because could we get the survey to people through schools or churches or something en masse to request that type of support? Because sometimes it's a matter of people not being there, not being at the park or not being at the workshop or something, if we could put something in their hands.
A school district does have like a messaging system where it does provide communication to parents. So, that is a possibility, maybe speaking with our IT director, on how we can push that out through our parents' web portal or whatever that medium is to, because we do send surveys out through the school. So, that could be a possibility, but I would have to check with IT.
Okay, that's a good idea. To that point, I don't know.
Chamber broadcasting this to their members?
We've been sharing it. We're happy to make it. When does the survey close?
Not until mid-October, probably. It doesn't have a solid date yet, but we've got a good month and a half left in the survey.
Get together about pushing it up.
Yeah, the other thing too, I don't know if you've already received your property tax bill notice from Kyle yet, but there was a flyer that was put into that mailer as well. So, we're getting it out as much as we can, but I'll be honest, I didn't really pay attention to it when I got mine either. So I'm like, oh, I know what that is. Yeah. Very good. Sure, you ready?
I was just gonna say, I know, let's have a discussion yesterday, but it seems like the Florida Department of Revenue is backing off on some of their taxes they charge too. Because, if you had a commercial rental, you had to charge sales tax on that rent. And now, from what I'm being told, and some of the information I looked at yesterday, they're gonna do away with that sales tax on commercial property rent too. So that's,
They cut it.
and I understand, I haven't got all the details, but they're gonna do away with some of the other taxes on commercial property also, as far as the leases and stuff like that. So, that's something new that's coming down, and I think it takes effect October 1st too, fiscal year of October 1st, but, I don't know how that plays into this, but, they just, goes to show you, governor is serious about eliminating some of the taxes and stuff people pay, so I'm sure that money gets distributed back to us in some form, a little bit of it, but that's gonna be another, money that we're not gonna be getting anymore.
We lost $600,000 this year.
600,000.
Business rental tax.
Yeah, so. Okay, well, let's move on. So, economic development specialist report.
Yes, so last meeting we mentioned several things that Van had coming up, one specific with the Department of Commerce. And I will stop and let Van take over.
Good morning. Right, I've been sitting here on pins and needles. Oh, a lot of discussion going on there. Okay, so July 28th through the 30th, Department of Commerce Business Retention and Expansion Manager, EJ Gobar, he came down to Lake City. We're one of his 67 stops for this year. And I set up meetings with the following 6 businesses. You can see them: Grizzly Manufacturing, Robbins Manufacturing, Car Industries, RDH Trucking, Hal Patter, and Town Homes. We had some very good conversations with these businesses. And the one thing that kept coming up as a concern is finding quality people to employ. Funding for training in businesses, NAICS codes, the average wage in Columbia County, and target industries. So that this group knows, I have been addressing each one of these through emails, and it goes out to the entire business retention and expansion network, not just those people who have it, because if it's on those 6 businesses' minds, it's on everybody's mind. So I have been going through and sending out information that I can find on funding and training, and also workforce pools, which I am going to go into something that when he said workforce pools, I was like, we can make this happen, because we do have some workforce here. We just have to pull it all together. It's like we have these things here, but they're in different sections. It's about pulling those together. But that was very, it was a very great 3 days, because we explained to the businesses how me being the local business retention expansion person, if I can't find the answer, I can go to EJ, because he's the statewide business retention and expansion manager. So we work together to find answers and submit, give these resources to our companies and as they need it. So that's been great. Also during that time, the Business Retention and Expansion Network is growing. I believe the last time we were here, I said I had maybe about 60 or so, and now we're up to about 83. So I've been out in the community gathering information and telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm sending out information. If you want to be a part of this, just let me know. All I do is I'll add you to the email and we'll be good to go. So I'm real happy about that. These are pictures from our visits, with one with Car Industries, that's me and EJ on the far right, and at Robbins, you see each of me and EJ are like on the inside. So we had some great conversations. It was a wonderful 3 days. I almost took EJ out because I did not realize that he was heat sensitive and he was hot and got sick on day 2. I did not know, but I was like, dude, sure. So, but we did. It was wonderful. And he had a good time. He sent us, of course, some thank you emails and everything. That was great. I did ask about the 500 acres. I was told at this time that it's in its infancy stages, but it is on my radar. So as we start to develop that, that will stay on my radar. And when you guys are ready and we've got it a little more developed, I can go back to EJ on that. So I did keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just hope it happens, David knows about this. We bought this so many years ago, and it's been sitting there.
Yeah.
They have let the contract on engineering phase 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're gonna start the RC track.
Yeah.
They're asking for more money, because bids came in high.
Oh.
TDC has some reserves to.
So that is how those visits went. And it was a lovely time. I enjoyed that. Now, to address the workforce pool and finding quality individuals, I had a meeting with Angela Kopic and Tia Jernigan to discuss implementing career cafes. This was an idea that I got at one of the many meetings I went to last year for economic development. And what we plan on doing is taking those students who are in certification CTE programs, grouping them into 2 groups and having businesses to come in and discuss what their openings are, what their needs are, and how they can, get these youngsters if possibly employed. And this can be something that, number one, it helps to bridge a gap between employment of our youth when they're coming out with these certifications. And number 2, you've got a business that can train someone who already has an idea of what they're doing, what they need. This was when we were discussing with some of the industrial companies, I was like, do you realize we do have a welding program that does very well at CHS? And a lot of them had no idea. And that was really shocking. I was like, okay, so we've got to really put ourselves out there, put our businesses out there, put them on display so that these students know there is some place to go here in Lake City once you receive your certification. And speaking with Angela, she did state that they have programs where these students can start working and actually leave the school, get their credit for it, go to the job. And when they finished, they can go for full-time work with the employer, is that correct?
Yes, so we do offer guided workplace learning, used to be DCT back in the day, so that students who are enrolled in these CTE programs, once they complete that sequence of courses, at that last course, upon completion of certification, they can go out into the workforce in that specialty industry and do what's called like a job shadow, a job intern component of that as a part of earning a credit in the class. So that is a part of our CTE programs, and we are, very excited about having this opportunity to do the career cafe. When I think about it, I think about speed dating, because we thought about maybe doing 50 students in the targeted industries. We're going to look at I think it was welding, building trades and construction. And then also we do have a small but growing program that's advanced manufacturing technology. So we're going to start out, I think, Van, with that. Those programs and push out some of what the requirements or expectations are going to be for this event. I don't think that we've actually solidified a date yet, but we were thinking maybe first week of November, possibly, because we have to kind of go out into the classrooms to talk to the kids, about, okay, this is how you're supposed to dress for this event. And then like, what are the norms for upon coming to the event, which we're planning to host at the Adult Ed Center downtown for these industries. We do also, in to address your question about the integration of the education with business. So as a part of our career and technical education programs, they all have what's called an advisory council. And on that advisory council consists of your business and industry partners who actually do come to the table to actually provide some type of feedback to the instructors as to these are the things that we are looking for, for our qualified workforce. So we do have pockets of that going on, but it would be great if we can expand that and look for opportunities to where we can do that on a larger scale. So the business tours, I think Brian Zecker does every year the Build My Future, where he has that industry come out and we send students, to go and take a look at those specific industries for building trades and construction. They go out they do tours, Jacksonville, Santa Fe. So those that are in that targeted industry do go out and expose students to those, opportunities. So to have the conversation or to further the conversation as to what else can be done, that's on the table, right now as to what that can look like in terms of further engaging business and industries with our schools.
If I can add something to this conversation, they have the career fair and they have the job fair already. This is taking that to a much more granular level, right? It's looking at our targeted sectors and saying, this company is looking for these particular skills or qualifications or characteristics in a person, and how do you help that student continue that path and build that there. So it's not taking away from the job fair that's already in place. What it really is doing is taking that to the next level and getting much more specific and having those one-on-one conversations. So, where the job fair is kind of, when you look around and you go through, there's a large number of the kids that are just taking that as a chance to get out of class and go hang out and do whatever, and they're playing on their phones or whatever. These are the kids who are really looking to start a job, a career very early on. They already have that interest. This is helping to build that.
It is an application of the skills acquired, through the instructional component. So when a student takes those courses and they earn the certification, this is an opportunity for students to go out and apply those skills in the actual workplace setting, so that in and of itself puts the student in a better position to actually be able to be hired potentially, upon completion of high school. And we've had that happen before, in certain programs. So yeah, I think this is, it kind of, establishes a career pathway, for those students, even if they may change later on, but they will have that skill set, upon leaving high school that they can take to use in whatever format or fashion that they choose.
Angela, quick question. Did, although that new rehab hospital out there on 90 West hasn't opened yet, I think they're opening September. Did you already cultivate a relationship with them for the CNA program? Because I was really impressed with your CNA program at the high school.
No, we do have clinical agreements with certain hospitals. We run back and forth with HCA. There's some legal issue with talking legal about the students. But yeah, we do go out into the community and establish those clinical agreements so that they can go into those settings as well. But I don't know that we've actually reached out to them. That would be a Tiara Jernigan question to see. Yes.
I have a good relationship with most of those folks. As is Joey, they're very active in the chamber already. So we're happy to make that connection. And they just hired a CEO.
Cool.
Seen that in the picture. Yes.
So to answer any questions about that section of workforce pools, we are actively getting together to make that that question that is no longer asked. We are putting together things so that people can have some place to go. And the contacts that I'm making, I'm hoping that they'll continue to grow so that I can even, branch out even more. At this time for the career cafes, we do have Grizzly Manufacturing who has said, yes, they want a slot. Career Source also, which we're glad about that because for some time people have been asking what's going on there. But Career Source has requested to have a slot so they can talk about their programs that they have to help these young people. We have Sarah with Another Way, and we also have a representative from Express Employment who also wishes to be a part of this. So it is growing, word is getting out there. I'm very pleased at what we've started. We've only had one meeting, but the momentum is growing, and I'm very thankful that I have Angela here.
And I think we're supposed to cap it at like 5 employers, right? Because we were only going to do like a small amount.
Yeah. So we do 25, 5.
Not for real.
Right, we said we're not gonna make it too big, and then we look like, oh, that was a bad idea.
It's not an all-you-can-eat buffet, it's a cafe.
It is, and we wanna have two, so this will be the first one in the fall, the next one will be in school. All right, also in working with workforce pools, once again, I got some contact information. EJ, who is my liaison, as you know, in Tallahassee, with Veterans Florida. And that organization helps veterans to transition into jobs as they are discharging from the service. So now I have those two contacts as well, because some of our businesses we visited did say they like to hire veterans. So with that information, I'm able to send that out to amongst our BRE people and our network so that they can start pulling information from there and possibly getting employment positions fulfilled. So we had our first BRE meeting of the fall, and it was August 19th. And our presenters discussed streamlining your business, expanding your profit, mentorship programs, and career source also. It was a really good meeting because at the end of it, those folks who attended actually traded emails because they found other avenues that they could speak with each other on to help strengthen the network as a whole. So I was very pleased with that. And that's questions.
I have a question. Seeing the target as veterans, I can't remember who I had a discussion with not long ago, but something came about people that are leaving detention centers and opportunities that they would have to stay in the community. Could that be incorporated in?
I've actually already made that contact and we'll be speaking with Alicia Warren today regarding the employment of those being released. So that is, yes, another avenue that I'm in as well.
And you know, we develop the record report.
All right, so just to cover a couple of project updates, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on these, but I just want you to understand some of the conversations and some of the types of industries that that are kind of circulating right now. By the way, the beautiful picture to your right is the about 3-week-old picture of AgroLiquid being constructed out at the North Florida Mega Industrial Park. So as you can see, they're making very good progress. They're planning to be open by the end of the year. So that's their building in the back. You see the rail that comes all the way across. That acreage in the front that's clear is the property that we talked about last time that had to be clear graded and grubbed in order to get the stormwater in the back done. And which is what in kind of piqued the interest of Project Steel. So when Project Steel came to visit, we were in this conference room talking about what their needs were. Initially, it was 80 to 100 acres. And that conversation went on. We get out on site and they see 60 acres of pad ready. You can stick a shovel in it in 45 days dirt. And all of a sudden that 60 acres was more than enough for what they needed. So where we are at currently with Project Steel is something I wanted to bring up because this is something that has been in the news, right? We've talked about it publicly at board meetings. We've been asked to apply for some funding for some infrastructure improvements, things like that. So we were scheduled to have our third visit with a company next week. Spoke with them yesterday. They are out of the country on other business and have asked to postpone until September. But right now, the conversation is around the power requirements and what it's going to take to get the 50 megawatts of power they require to start. to that site, including cost, timing, all of that. And I will say that FPL has been on the ball with every question that the company has proposed and had really good back and forth conversations. So everything is still very positive in that format. I get a random text every now and then just saying, "Hey, Jennifer, just want to let you know we're thinking about you." So that's a good sign from a company like that. The next one down, I will be very vague because it is a very early discussion and I am under confidentiality, but I bring this one up because of that, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Jeff, with the publicity and kind of the free marketing that some of these conversations have when we talk about them in meetings and things. This particular company uses a specific type of steel component that Project Steel manufactures. And when they read in the newspaper that a company like Project Steel was considering coming here, all of a sudden it made a whole lot of sense for them to build a business here. So we're in conversations now about what it looks like for them to establish their company here, what their entire footprint will be. As of right now, I mean, it's significant. They're talking about 100 employees, $28 an hour-ish, something like that. So the reason I have them here this early is just to remind everybody the power of these projects when we start working them and it starts becoming known, the type of industry and the process that we're going through. That one company all of a sudden now brings another 100 jobs. Completely unrelated. They don't know each other at all. As a matter of fact, I even offered to introduce them. It may be a little premature, but it's on the table. So that's the interesting thing about having these conversations in public. Project Gray is something that recently came about that I wanted to mention because it's a project that will only go on airport property. It's a company looking to build specifically on a small municipal airport. They don't want to be in a major facility. They don't want to be where there's a lot of traffic in and out. So this is that kind of traffic, sorry. I did mention that we would probably have quite a few more planes on a weekly basis coming in, but that was okay. So the reason I bring this up is the importance of the partnerships with the entities around us, right? I can't propose a site for this project unless the city's on board with it. So that conversation and communication with the city is imperative, and they are. So Ed and I have had several conversations about this project, and that response will be submitted today, and they're excited to hear about it. Back to those relationships, Project Rise is an interesting lead that came to me from a counterpart of mine over on the very East Coast, kind of a small private economic development organization there that this company came to. They were looking for somewhere. One of the key points is distance to cold storage. They needed to be very near a cold storage facility that had capacity, but also access to interstates. The community they were talking to, even though she represents 3 or 4 different counties, they didn't have anything that fit this company's needs. So she gave me a call and said, "Will you talk to them?" So we're in that conversation now, and I've proposed 3 or 4 different locations. I've sent them several sites to ponder and asking more information. So again, it goes back to those relationships. Black Sable, I did want to bring an update to the board. I got a notification actually very late yesterday. This was the large project that we submitted in partnership with Taylor County. They were looking for a very large site or few smaller sites within 60 to 70 miles of each other. The requirements for this one from a water perspective were very, very steep. And it's so much so that when they broke the project up into Project A and Project B, one of them had a much higher water requirement than the other. And I told the person in Taylor County, I said, we just cannot give up 4 million gallons of water a day for this type of project. We can't. I'm happy to submit for the first side of this, but I can't do the second. Come to find out, they were comfortable with that high dollar or high gallon amount. So we submitted jointly, which is very unheard of. The state even called me back and said, really? You're going to do that? I'm like, it works. I mean, we're close enough according to the requirements that it makes sense for what they're looking for. We both have unique assets that apply to this particular RFI. So we partnered together. And actually the North Florida Economic Development Partnership meeting that we hosted at the Town Place in June, afterwards, the four of us sat down and put all of our response together and submitted as one response. We were told yesterday that we were eliminated. They appreciated the response, but at this time they've got 3 other sites that really just excelled above and beyond. But the fact that they took the time to say, thank you for thinking outside the box and submitting this is pretty impressive. Most of the time, these major site selectors don't do that. Project Mars is one I wanted to mention, really to kind of get the feel of this board's thoughts on this particular type of project, because over the last 6-8 months, I've probably seen 5 or 6 of these come across. They're very large land requirements with very small buildings and tied to aviation or military or aerospace, which typically means they're making something that goes boom. Munitions of some sort, whether it be, actual ammunition of different calibers or RPGs, grenades, things like that. I haven't been proposed for a site for actual like bombs or anything like that just yet. But the requirements of these outside of the land asking is typically very easy to accommodate. They don't require a lot of water. They don't require, a lot of power, sewer, gas, that kind of thing. They do employ quite a few people. It's a significant chunk of land to give up for a 300,000 square foot building, but I'm just curious to hear this board's thoughts on those types of projects, the ammunition or munitions type projects, because I know some other communities who have not been so open-minded about these. So I would like your feedback on that. What does this board think?
My opinion would be that the Avery Roberts property out there at 90 and I-10 would be a good place for that.
The project in general, though, you would support having that type of project here?
Something volatile that needs a large parcel that, what kind of employment are we talking about?
Most of these that are tied to military or government contracts are significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, from the standpoint of if it needs an isolated area, that's pretty darn isolated out there.
So I really don't see a problem. But if you put it out there where you're isolated,
I think as long as you're not eliminating better potential by giving that much land away, there's really no issues.
Okay, that's a good point.
How many acres is it?
This one, initially, they were requesting 1,000. It is a lot. And again, most of that is a buffer. So they asked for that, but then when we actually have a chance to have a conversation and kind of talk through it, then they realize we have a lot of areas that are buffered naturally, then the requirement goes down some. But it typically starts with that. There's also regulations as far as like if they have underground bunkers or if they have they're storing powder or things like that on site. There are requirements as far as how far apart these different facilities within that can be, which can space it out.
Is this manufacturing and
Yes.
testing?
This particular project is all of the above. I've had several that are just testing, manufacturing, yes.
Yeah, this is.
SIF deal involved with it?
With this one, other than providing the power input, no, this was a state lead.
And one of the good Good thing about it is that it's not a big water user,
No.
not a big sewage user, not a big power user, you know, it's, and you're creating 100 jobs and you are isolated.
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
Well,
you're not
and,
really utilizing a lot of infrastructure to house them other than land. So,
correct. And I've been approached, you know, or at least been made aware of, several 100-acre parcels within the county, that, you know, people who currently own are interested in doing things with. But I mean, you look at Ellisville, how much acreage is available in Ellisville, right? So there are places within the county that we could put these projects. I was just curious what the, you know,
I think
Compared to this board would be.
this project is more related to nuisance kind of a thing.
yes.
And so I think it all depends where it goes.
Mhm.
Where do you put it? If there's no disturbance to the community, I guess, well and good.
Right.
You know, but
it would have to be an isolated area.
yeah, it has to be a really isolated area.
County isn't going after.
I think he may be at capacity with these already.
Yeah.
I think he's got one coming in now that may take up most of them.
You know, one good thing about the side Jeff's talking about, a lot of national forests are
Yes.
surrounding.
Yeah.
You talk about a buffer, I mean, you got a natural buffer for miles.
Exactly. And we've got wetlands that are in places that provide that buffer too, right? So, you know, wetlands that you can't take down or you have to pay extra to mitigate, use that as a buffer and build around it.
The challenges would be how do you get over the environmental, the noise, the animals, all that stuff is gonna come into play.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, any project of this nature anyway is going to come to this board before it's officially official
And
anyway.
that's why I said, so it would be something that we would have to look at the whole picture at that time and make a decision on, but I think.
First, we gotta identify.
It is something we would look at for sure if it was in the right location. I mean,
And that's really what I was looking for. I don't want to spend a lot of time going down the path of these type projects and investing a lot of resource in it if it's not something that we feel the county would be supportive of. So,
If you're looking at a 1,000-acre project, you know, regardless of what's going on there, but the requirement's 1,000 acres of property, you're either going east or north.
Mhm.
I don't see anything going south. You're not going anything like this down at Ellisville.
Right.
West, not gonna put it out there, but
Right.
east or north. And I wouldn't want to, like Mark said, I wouldn't want to give up what we have at the industrial site,
Mhm.
the mega industrial site,
Right.
to give up that kind of property.
Exactly. The last update I wanted to talk about is Garfield, and this will be brief, but you'll remember this was a semiconductor project that Congresswoman Kamek's office brought down, oh man, what is a year and a half ago or so? And it's kind of just been out there. Every time I see anyone from the Congresswoman's office, I ask about it. Anytime someone from the Department of Commerce sees me, they ask me about it. And in the process of moving into my new office, came across the business card. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to reach out. State hasn't made any more progress with it. So I sent him an email and just said, hey, just want to let you know, I was thinking about you. There's a lot going on in Lake City. A lot of things are growing. A lot of things are moving. Just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And he immediately got back to me. And the first thing he said is both of the owners, operators of the company, we love Lake City. We keep our eye on it, and we're hoping that we can move forward soon. So Project Garfield is still in play. I'm happy to announce that one. So, all right, moving on. This is the news article or the magazine that we talked about last meeting. I didn't have a copy of it just yet, but this is the July edition. You'll see the cover of it, Business in Focus. One of the things I wanted to mention is it's not just about us or one particular thing. What impressed me about this when I saw the whole magazine, Michelle, if you'll click the link for me. And I'm happy to send this out so anyone can go through it. There's also physical copies that they're mailing out. I haven't received them just yet. It takes a second for it to load. Or 10 seconds for it to load. There it is. Okay, so yeah, hit that. So as you go through, one more time, you'll see these are the communities that they did articles on, that they reached out. And this was one that I did not reach out specifically. They contacted me and asked, "Are you interested in submitting an article?" And we worked together for them to draft it. But they have a focus on Wisconsin and they have a focus on Florida in this particular month magazine. But you'll see they talk to Tallahassee, they talk to Palm Bay, they talk to Palm Coast. So over on that side, we were not the only community in Florida, but we were really the only rural community that they reached out to. In my opinion, it was a fantastic article and it looks beautiful. So I was very proud of this. They sent brochures, what they're calling, and that's the packet you have in front of you now, this article. So it's our article specifically pulled out that they provided to us, but I'm happy to send the link for the magazine as well as the article itself. But this is a national publication, goes out to everybody in the economic development world or in the business world. So very happy with how this magazine article turned out.
So, did we have to pay anything for this?
We did not. Good
This is
question.
perfect.
So when they approached us, how these typically work out is they ask, can you, are there people within the community who we can reach out to ask if they would buy ads? So typically what I do is send links to all of the businesses, companies, people that we work with. Everyone in the chamber link, every company that I can, I have a personal relationship with that I've talked to, and I send their name and email address and phone number. I also then reach out to that company and let them know that, hey, you're going to get a phone call from so-and-so from Business in Focus. They're basically going to ask you if you're interested in buying some ad space in this magazine. But don't feel pressured to do it because they're going to run the article either way. So, you'll notice in this, the Roberts Company, ROC Development, and HACO, I think we're three that chose to buy ad space. And again, even if they didn't, the company would have still run the article. But it just gives these companies a chance to get their name in a national newspaper or news focus with like industry, if you will.
This is great.
I don't write the final articles on this. We have an interview, and she asks some questions and I give her some information, and then she goes and pulls information, and we send a whole bunch of pictures, and it's a back and forth over a couple of months process. And then they draft the article. So Allison, who wrote it, actually wrote it with information that was provided by us. Thank you. All right, the next thing I wanted to tell you, I'm super excited to share this with everybody. And by the way, I didn't make it that big, IEDC did, but I'm happy that it's that big because this was hard work for me. I am officially certified by the International Economic Development Council. What that entails, just so you know,
Congratulations.
And I'm not really good at doing these things about myself, but this was hard work. This is something that started when I was hired 7 years ago. I'd say about a year into working with the county, I really decided that this was the path that I wanted to be on, and this is what I wanted to do. So in order to become certified by IEDC, first you have to have 5 years experience in the field. So I could not even take the exam until I'd been with the county for 5 years. There's a list of courses that you're required to take. And then there's a list of electives that you choose which ones you take from there. And these are hundreds of hours of training that you go through. At the end of all of that, then you apply to take the exam. They don't have to take you. I send my resume, I fill out the application, tell them why I want to do this. And then if they choose to allow me to take it, it's a 3-part exam. The first 2 parts you have to pass before you can do the third. The first is an essay exam. You have to write 3-page-long essays about different topics. They're judged and scored by certified economic developers across the country. The second phase is a 75-question short answer multiple choice. So there's a list of them that I have to write definitions to and then answer multiple choice. Once you pass those 2, then you move to the third phase, which is an interview panel with 3 other certified developers across the country who I do not know. So once you get to that phase, you sit down and they literally just, they read over your resume and then they ask you questions about things that you've accomplished and what you're doing and things like that. So this was a long process. It was rewarding at the end, but it was stressful at times. And I will also say, to add to the importance of this, worldwide, there are about 1,250 certified economic developers internationally. IEDC only runs this certification process once a year. This particular cycle, there were 37 people certified and only 1 in the state of Florida. And you're looking at it. Hope you take this as again, my commitment to this job and what we do here and making sure that we do it the right way. About me. Thank you. All right.
Well, I'll give you an update on Florida Water Utility Authority. So we are working hard. We're on schedule to take over the operation, maintenance, and the building of the facilities in Columbia County and Swanee County on October 1st. We'll have an office here in this building, it sounds like. So, we are moving forward with all that. Everything's looking good. We had a good meeting, or a good phone conference yesterday with DEP, and they're on board with working with the utility, and they're actually talking to us about some other opportunities that might be out there that they would like for us to take advantage of and work with them on. And everything's moving forward and it's looking good. So,
Commissioner Ford, I have a question.
okay.
The meeting that I attended down in Fort White the other night, the mayor spoke on, was this what he was referencing to the North Florida about Fort White not being a part of the authority, or is this something totally different?
It was different at the time.
Okay.
One of the possibilities is the North Florida Water Utility Authority. We do the water in Fort White now. We operate and maintain the water, do good for the water.
Mhm.
And one of the things he was talking about is one of their options is to have the utility authority operate and maintain the sewer plant once it's built and online for the town also. But that's just in discussion right now. It's nothing set in stone. But I don't know if you recall when we were talking about sewer in Fort White, it was going to be an authority created between Columbia County and the town of Fort White. And they chose to go a different direction. But they did approve the grant and construction
Okay.
contract for the utility for the sewer in Fort White Monday night, and it is going out for bid, or it's out for bid already. They approved the contract, so it should be starting construction within the next couple of months. So everything is moving forward to have sewer in Fort White, but
That's good.
right now it is a town of Fort White project. It's not in the county or the North Florida Water Utility Authority right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other
I have
questions?
a question about it. Assuming that the North Florida Water Utility will be taking over the facilities out there at the mega industrial park, right?
At some point, yes.
Will the water authority also assume the debt that's associated with not only those facilities, but if they do the Fort White thing, you know, if the town of Fort White accumulates several $1 million in debt, will the water authority assume that?
Well, the Fort White is fully, it's funded by grant.
Okay,
So there won't be, there shouldn't be any debt on Fort White. It should be funded by grant.
okay,
One of the things we talked about yesterday was funding to help get that off the ground and do some other areas in the area around Fort White in the county. But as far as debt, there shouldn't be any debt. Now, right now, we're under a 2-year contract with City of Lake City at the Mega Industrial Park to operate and maintain that land out there. So that's up in there in the future, what, you know, where that goes. But right now, the only debt that the utility authority will take on is just the operation and the maintenance and the building right now. So
okay.
there is no debt with the utility right now, other than.
I'm just wondering about the debt on the, or if there is any debt on the existing facilities that the water authority will be assuming or be turned over to the water authority. Will it also relieve the county or the cities, whomever, of that debt?
Go ahead, Dave.
portion?
The easiest way to say it, right now, we're just talking about operations.
Mhm.
The distribution of assets is something that'll have to happen long term. Obviously, when it gets to the point that the county and Suwannee County divest themselves of assets, that debt would have to go with the asset.
Okay. So the utility authority is not going to be looking to be expanding or building?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They've got a legislative appropriation for $1.9 million
Yeah, we're gonna be
to expand
expanding,
infrastructure analysis.
we're gonna be expanding until next year with the utility
Okay.
authority.
They're currently
But it would be
working on
on
that
grant.
now.
Okay. And so that's not where the county would have to be concerned about funding that now. The authority is still.
So one of the goals of the authority was to expand our ability to find funding. By doing it on a regional basis, it opens us up to more ability to fund things.
Okay.
So the county won't be the one funding these in the future. They will assist the authority or assist the city of Lake City
Right.
in funding utility projects. They would not be
Okay.
doing it themselves.
Okay. Just curious.
But yeah, right now, Swan County really has no debt. Everything they have has been paid for and funded by grants or legislative appropriation.
Yeah.
And everything that Columbia County has right now.
You have some debt now.
Yeah, it's made
It's
up.
1 to 1.5% interest rate, so we never paid it off.
Right.
Certainly, it's a small enough amount of debt that we could pay it off. We chose to. Debt that occurred when we first built the infrastructure. It's a state revolving loan fund debt.
I guess what stimulated this question is because the discussion in the city about that one.
Yeah. But that, it's right. You know, the mega industrial park right now, there is a contract with the city for 2
To
years.
operate it.
And as far as all the debt discussion, how that takes place, that would happen more once we get to the point where the utility authority starts taking on the assets.
Okay.
But right now, the county is still on that.
So it's further on down the road.
Yeah.
So Rocky, is this revenue expense neutral kind of a thing? Or, when you merge these two different entities into one, who pays? Just curious, I know this is very complicated and you guys have done a lot of meetings and discussions, but just on a nutshell, how do you pay the expenses from the revenue these authorities going to get? The expenses to be paid, or how much money goes to Columbia County, or how much is access money distribution? How is that?
So where we stand today, the proposed budget that is on the table to be adopted, hopefully by both board, because adoptions are next month. They looked at the revenues from both systems. And they said, what would be the shortfall? And then they split the shortfall 50-50. And then they tacked on additional money for emergency repairs just in case something happens. So I think Columbia County will be spending about $625,000 in next year's budget towards the authority to keep moving forward. That would be a bond, that would be above and beyond current rates. Now, the authority has contracted Raptelis to do a rate study. And once that rate study is completed, the rates may take up more and more, and that the ultimate goal was to be self-funded through the rates of the operation. But as of right now, it is subsidized by both Suwannee and Columbia County.
And it's subsidized pretty much 50/50 right now, Columbia County, Swanee County.
This is done more for efficiency of operations and growth, I guess, and more control as to where you can grow.
So that, yeah,
This is for bringing in efficiency and growing into areas where you're not present, I guess, becomes much more easier.
and
Then, and as you move forward and they start talking about water recharge, you almost can't do water recharge unless you do it on a regional basis.
Yeah.
so DEP and Tallahassee have basically told us that, you know, they're looking at regional projects to be funded.
Yeah.
Multi-county, multi-agency, whatever. So, we had a good conference with them yesterday, and they're very excited about us forming this regional utility.
Like get more grant.
County, because,
Mhm.
you know, the water recharge for this area is so important to our aquifer. They really want to work with us on recharge projects and basically setting sewer on the rivers and the stream and the springs. And they say, it was a very good meeting yesterday, and looks like their DEP is fully in favor of the utility and looking forward to working with it and helping fund some projects for recharge and water quality improvement in this area.
But that means as we move forward and you bring in project, they won't be approaching the city for utility, or the county for utilities. They'll be approaching the authority or the city. So we have to maintain a partnership with them so that as we try to promote economic development, we have a good relationship.
How many county employees right now work in the utility side? And will they be transferred over to the water authority?
So, that is an interesting question. Technically, there are 4 employees in the utility, but that doesn't count the administrative staff that does billing and collections, and that doesn't count the public works department that fixes and repairs lines and that kind of stuff. So I can tell you 4 people, but that's not going to give you the full picture. Having said that, yes, the 4 utility employees will transfer over. They will begin doing the billing and collections. So they will be collecting the money and sending out the bills, handling all of that out of the bucket.
And so the water authority,
Mhm.
will those employees still have the same benefits that they have as county employees? Or does all of that?
I say sort of because they are an independent district.
Right.
They will be FRS, so they'll get to continue their FRS. But their benefit package will depend on what the authority decides.
Right.
It's probably going to mirror either Suwannee counties or Columbia counties, but that's their decision.
Currently, the water authority only has 1 employee now, right?
Sure.
October 1st is when the other employees will transfer over and be under the utility.
Okay.
So everything takes place in the fiscal year of October 1st. All transition takes place at that point.
Okay.
And that's what we're ramping up now to be ready to do that. And we're making good progress. I think we'll be ready.
Okay.
But the goal is to provide a smooth transition, so it's not going to be October 1, there's a hard shut-off.
Right.
It's going to be October 1, they're going to take over, but we've got to work through issues that come up because there's things like IT issues,
Right.
all that kind of stuff that has to be dealt with.
And also, you know, we've got projects that are already being done now that we're gonna have to work with the county on to finish those projects up.
Right.
So it's not gonna be one clean swipe of the ability forward, you know, you're gonna still have to finish projects that's been started and work with the counties on those projects. But 80% of them will take place on October 1st, as far as all the billings and collections and taking over the maintenance operation of the water and sewer plant. So we'll move on to public comment. Anybody got anything you want to say?
With our protocol.
Sandra, speak up a little bit. It's hard to hear here.
No, you told me you had a hearing issue a while back, that's what's hard to hear, so I need to speak a little bit louder as it relates to you. I think we got to take a conversation about that. So I try to do my best. Sometimes I speak too loud and then y'all want to kick me out of the meeting, so I want to try to use an appropriate voice. Can you hear me loud enough?
I can hear you now.
All right. So, I enjoyed it. And I think I attended a few of these. It's unfortunate that the city manager isn't present when it comes to economic development, when they have so many economic issues. I didn't hear anything addressed specifically to target the underserved community. I didn't hear anything specifically targeting Black minority preference, even though I see that y'all had something concerning veterans. Briefly, I support the governor's initiative to get rid of property taxes and overlook incentive for workforce housing. I think a lot of times y'all talk about giving tax incentives as far as property, you eliminate it and you already got the benefit built in. So sometimes you got to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. Two, local government has to be more prepared to pivot rather than be stuck on status quo, which in my opinion, when you start worrying about we're not going to have this, we're not going to have that, we're not going to have this, that lacks vision in my opinion, and you're not thinking ahead of the curve. So I would take a look at that, however y'all do. There are ways to make up for property taxes, right? And I personally can name 10 or 15, but again, I'm not here. I don't, the county's not my job to give you those ideas. I think it is beyond time for the city and the county to work together on consolidating some of the services similar to what y'all did with the dispatch. And I think that when you're talking about, and I will give you this nugget, you're talking about making up the difference of money, you start consolidating some of these services, automatically you're gonna start saving millions. Why this hadn't happened, looking at the budget expansion and the debt suspended on the city, I really think they should be probably on their knees begging that y'all do it. That's just my opinion. 5, more services need to be turned over to the private sector, in my opinion. More P3 deals need to be done. I think the governor and the president is shifting the nation toward that, which is, as a capitalist, I favor. My last thing is, how much does the county understand AI? And how much is the county using that beneficial tool? And lastly, I'd say that I'm very disappointed that I've had a conversation with the commissioners. I've had a conversation with the county manager, both Mr. Cross and Kevin Kirby. And it was specifically told to me before I engaged in litigation with the county that you all do not have any policy against hiring convicted felons, that it has been an ongoing practice. However, there's been several people in my community that were actually hired by the county, then called back and told them we're not gonna be able to have the job because they were convicted felons. And those people cried on my shoulders. I didn't get on social media and raise hell because, of course, I got bigger fish to fry, given the fact that I'm working on going into the hospitality business and looking at buying into some hotels. So I got bigger fish to fry, but that is something that y'all said that y'all would do a better job at. And it's very disappointing that you could have easily, over the amount of time y'all have done that, contribute to what is called a recidivism rate by having that type of attitude toward high convicted felons. And believe you me, that y'all gonna be on y'all knees one day begging the convicted felons, because that is the new workforce, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying about duplication of services between the cities and the counties and stuff. That is one thing that has to be addressed. It goes back down the road. I was talking about even with, the director over the land use plan and stuff. If we could consolidate all that for the whole county, you could have one department basically does all the comprehensive land use plan for the whole county. Go to them, look at the area you're in, and right now, you know, we got a director for Columbia County, we got a director for the city, and, well, White Hire, theirs out to an independent, you know, but they're still paying for it. So, you know, there are several areas you can consolidate those services and save quite a bit of money a year. I mean, we're trying to hire a person now, you know, for our director over planning and zoning, and
Finding,
can't find nobody, so, you know. And the ones that you do look at, when they look at what you're paying, they refuse to work for that, you know, because they're not gonna come here for that, so. That is a problem. I mean, and it needs to be, so have to be addressed at some point, you know. Anybody else want to speak? Next, meeting is, September 18th, 2025.
I will go ahead and give you a prelude into that. Currently, I'm anticipating bringing 2 requests for incentives to that meeting, 1 industrial, 1 residential. I'll let you know if that changes, but as of right now, both of those projects have asked to be on the September agenda.
Is that, this deal, that thing gonna be held? Is it here or at the college?
Yes, we're gonna have it here.
Okay.
Jennifer, I will be out of the country. Is there any way I could get those details as to what incentives, you know, before I
Yes, I'll reach out to you prior to, we can have a conversation about it.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say before we call from John? Thank you, everybody.